Hey guys, so recently I realized that it's been like 20 videos since I've done any content relating to my car, my 718 GT4. You know, everything I've been posting just other people's cars, which obviously is very cool. I don't want my channel to be based around my car. Frankly, I don't think it's that special. But I figured, you know, it's been like 20 videos, so I might as well do a video on it. And I got a cool idea from James Stradman of when he was first starting out on YouTube and he was still working his regular job. He made a video on how he could afford his gated Lamborghini Gallardo. Obviously, this is not something of that level, especially not nowadays with these prices. But I still kind of wanted to, you know, tell you guys how I was able to afford it. I bought the car when I was 22 years old. And I don't think it's actually that unachievable to own a car like this. So I wanted to walk you guys through how I bought it and just show you that it's not like, a lot of people think it's like a bigger deal than it is, and it really isn't. So yeah, let's go for a drive and I'll kind of walk you guys through how I was able to afford it. Okay, so let's start from a little bit before I bought the car. So I bought this car in January 2021, so about a year and a half ago, and that was right after kind of COVID. I don't want to say ended, but everybody started getting really used to everything. But before COVID happened, I had a 2019 Ford Mustang Bullet, which I bought for $51,000. I think was the selling price. It was a $60,000 car, but I sold it to myself because I work at Ford. My lease price on it was about $790 per month, and my insurance was $850 because I was 21 or 20 or whatever when I bought it. And obviously with a car like that, it's going to be pretty expensive insurance. Then COVID hit. I really wasn't making a lot of money, but I didn't have a lot of expenses. So now I was making, I don't know, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and it was all going towards the car and gas, and I was just driving around all day because there was nothing else to really do. And I got really used to not spending a lot of money, and it was, you know, even after everything reopened, I couldn't travel, I couldn't do anything really, so I was still not spending a lot of money. But when I went back to work, the car market started heating up a little bit. And prices haven't gone up yet at that point, but we were just selling a ton of cars, everything we had. Everybody wanted to spend money because they weren't spending money on anything else. So now I went from being paycheck to paycheck, pretty much, you know, literally my account would get down to close to zero after every bi-week, like towards the end of the bi-weekly pay cycle, to now every bi-weekly paycheck, suddenly I'm saving $1,000, $2,000 bi-weekly, just saving, accumulating in my account, which I've never had before. And towards summer 2020, I started thinking, you know, I'm really easily affording this Mustang, and I'm just saving a ton of money. And yeah, the Mustang is cool, but I also want something a little bit more serious, because honestly, a Mustang I feel like was a bit more of like a kid car. It wasn't as serious of a car as something like a GT4, and to be honest, I wasn't even looking GT4 in the beginning. So started tossing around the idea of buying certain cars. At first I was kind of looking at GTS versions of this, and I wasn't really sold on it. And then for 2-3 months, I was just hardcore looking for manual R8 V8s. So the gated manuals, and I wanted a 12 or 14. Like 12 was the last year of the first gen, 14 was the small facelifts, which I really wanted those. And to be fair, if I would have bought one of those, I actually would have done better than I have been doing on this car. But I just kind of got scared because honestly, I can afford car payments. I didn't buy this car outright. I'm financing this car. I can afford the car payments. I can't afford to start spending 10 grand on repairs here, 5 grand on repairs there. So R8, I kind of decided was out of the question because there's no warranty on that car. I was going to buy a used car. Then 2 of my friends had GT4s, and I drove one of them, and I was just, you know, I fell in love with the seats, I fell in love with the interior, and I was like, okay, I got to get one of these cars. And the lucky thing is, I kind of decided that around December of 2020. That was a very brief period where used GT4s were going, and I'm not even saying high kilometer used, I'm saying 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles, 1,000 miles, whatever it is in the US, Canada. But low mileage GT4s, you could get under MSRP. My budget was about 120, maybe a little bit more Canadian. And there was a few base cars that had bucket seats. I was not going to get a car without bucket seats, but nothing really else on the car. And I got very close to pulling the trigger on those. And then this car came along, and it was out of my price range. They were asking $131,800. I managed to negotiate it down to $130, and I kind of was ready to go at $130, and I was just going to stretch my payments. And I ended up getting another $1,000 off, so I got it for $129. Now, over this time from, you know, August, September until that December, January period, I've saved up $30,000 or something. Like, my account was more money than I've ever had in my account. So I had money to put a decent down payment down to lower my payments a little bit. So when the time came, I kind of tried to play around with how much money I'm going to put down. I ended up putting $18,000 down, and I got a pretty good interest rate, especially by today's rates, because interest rates have been going up. So for me, for someone who hasn't financed anything really too expensive before, I got a 4.19 interest rate, which back then seemed a little high, but compared to stuff now, it's not that bad. And my payments are $816 bi-weekly. Now, at my job, like I said, I was saving a ton of money. Since this whole market changed because of COVID, also I got more experience at my job because I only had 1.5 years before COVID. I've been making about $100,000 a year. So I had the money saved up, and my payments are $816 bi-weekly, which is $1,750 a month. Now, with $100,000 a year, and I don't have a lot of other expenses. I don't really go clubbing. I don't do any of that stuff. Pretty much, it's like food with friends, car, gas. That's my expenses. So I can make the $816 payments bi-weekly. The one thing I just wanted to make sure that I'm never in a position of is I didn't want to buy a car that I'm going to be upside down on. So when I bought this car, I actually didn't have the expectation of the market going the way it did and me pretty much making money on the car. I was just hoping the car is going to depreciate at the same rate as my payments, so if I ever need to dump the car, I can dump the car. I don't have to worry about the payments. What actually happened is the car went up in value, where now if this car still had 1,700 kilometers in Canada, it could get listed for $210,000, no problem, which is $80,000 more than I paid. Obviously, my car is at 38,807 kilometers. My car is not worth $210,000 in any way. I think if I had to dump my car today, I could get $145, $150 for it wholesale to just dump it. And the reason I can afford this car and I don't have to be stressed, because honestly, when I bought this car, I was pretty stressed and I didn't really know if I was going to be able to keep up with it, is even though I'm not saving as much money as I was saving before, I'm definitely not saving $1,000, $2,000 every 2 weeks. I know that if I'm ever in financial trouble, if I just dump this car, you know, I've made a lot of payments, I did all that, I'll have about $50,000 in equity that I can just, you know, liquidate the car, get money back, and I'll be in a good position if I ever need the money. So my kind of theory when buying the car was, I can't buy something that's going to take a hit, like, and just go down like crazy in value, which is why I didn't end up with anything like an AMG or an M car or even an RS car. Again, no offense to anybody who bought those cars, but historically speaking, if it wasn't for this current market, those cars usually just dip pretty badly in value, and they really just, you know, they lose 50% of their value pretty quick. And Porsches are kind of known for holding value a lot better. So that's kind of the main reason I went for this, and I wasn't going to buy anything older that has maintenance issues. Right? I had to make sure I'm safe depreciation-wise, maintenance-wise. The car needs to be bulletproof. I need to be able to enjoy it, because honestly, I can't spend so much of my money on a car that I can't drive as much as I'd ideally want to. So the one thing I always recommend to people based on that, to kind of be able to do the same thing that I did and buy a car at a young age, especially because at a young age, you're not going to have the responsibilities you're going to have when you're, you know, 40-something. If you have kids, if you have that you're going to need to pay other stuff, is as long as you're making, you know, a decent amount of money, you don't have to make a ton of money, and as long as you choose the right cars and you know what you're getting yourself into, you can always get out of the cars you buy as long as you choose the right cars. And if you can make the payments, this is your time to kind of be able to enjoy those cars, and there is ways to do it. I know all the time parents and stuff will say, oh, like, you know, buy this, buy that, don't spend your money on a car, but it's an experience that you want to get now, because when you're older, these cars are only hard to afford when you're older and you have more responsibilities and you have a family and you have a house and you have this and you have that. That's when these cars become hard to afford. But when it's kind of the main expense in your life, it is a lot more doable than later on in life. And you choose the right cars, you're not going to lose money, and you're going to probably also build up equity, especially in this market. And I'm still in a position, luckily enough, that I can easily pay for the car. My insurance actually went down since the Mustang, so I'm paying right now, so $1,750 a month for the car and $650 a month for insurance. And it's almost like all the money I'm putting into the car is just going into equity. I'm not even losing the money, and I get to drive this car for pretty much free. Now, you would think that, you know, I bought a car, it went up like crazy in value, even though I drove it a ton. You know, everybody's been telling me, sell the car, take the money, sell the car. But here's the thing. I'm not in a financial need to sell the car. I have money. I don't have a ton of money, but I can, you know, I'm living pretty easily right now. I'm not really watching too much what I spend on like food and stuff. I'm pretty comfortable in that way. But if I were to sell the car, cash out my profits, say, oh, I enjoy the car, drove for free, anything else I will go get right now went up just as much as this car did, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but the market as a whole just went up. So now I can pull my money out, but it's like the housing market. It's, you know, it's either I don't get another car, and then, you know, you don't want to go from having a GT4 to driving a regular car all day long, or, you know, I have to put it into another car and kind of pay that premium on anything else. So for now, my kind of plan is I'm going to keep driving this car. I'm going to drive the hell out of it. I do not care about kilometers. I have 38,810 kilometers, and the only thing I watch for in kilometers is when my services are coming up. That's the only thing I care about, like money-wise, because services on this car do get expensive sometimes, and I'm just kind of watching. I don't want to have to do oil changes every month and spend, you know, oil changes $600 at the dealer for this car. So that's the only reason I care about kilometers. But my kind of ideal goal with this car is to keep driving it. Hopefully YouTube will make me enough money that it can kind of cover the cost of the car. And what I'd ideally love to do is, if I can use this car and just, you know, any event in North America that there is, I'd love to just road trip the car there. I had the car at Car Week last year. I'm not sure if you guys followed along for that trip, but it was the craziest thing to have my car in California. They drive it across the country and do all that. It just, I really want to enjoy the car. I don't see myself, even if I start making huge YouTube money or whatever it is, I don't see myself really getting another car too soon, because I'd actually rather just be able to enjoy the car and really not care about any kilometers or anything. And, you know, if I ever am in a financial need, I can sell this car and I can pull money out of it, no problem. So I'd rather really be enjoying it. But yeah, long story short, that's kind of how I was able to afford the car. I'm just financing the car, I managed to choose the right car. The market really played in my favor, and yeah, that's kind of how I did it.